Hello everyone, and welcome to How to Run Remote Reviews. We work with a lot of advisors, and although they use Wealthbit amazingly, we found that many of them still have some struggles running remote reviews. So we spoke to Don, and together he's helped put this session together for us. Don is a speaker and presentation coach, and he'll help you to run better reviews. My name is Roland, and I head up Wealthbit I head up business development for Wealthbit. Now, the platform we're using today is CrowdCast. And on my left-hand side, your right-hand side, what you'll see is a chat function where you guys can chat and interact with us and everyone else in the presentation. On the bottom, you can ask questions, and if you really like those questions, you can upvote them as well. And from time to time, you'll actually get a poll that'll pop up, which we'd love to hear your insights and answers. So that's enough for me. You'll hear a bit more from me later, but let me introduce you to Don. And Don, over to you.
Thanks, Roland. Hello, everybody. Roland, the guy who heads up Wealthbit. That was very funny. Ladies and gents, thanks very much for having me. This is a truly exciting time for everyone, spending time online, a lot of time at home, and a lot of time trying to figure out how we do things. So this is quite exciting. My job here is very simple. My job generally in life, I feel, is very simple, is to try and ask lots of questions and get clarity on things, and to be able to see things in a different light. When the guys were chatting to me about advisors looking for better tips and tricks to help them on remote reviews, I thought that was quite a good challenge. But what I actually wanted to do first is, you're obviously here for a reason. We've got a number of people who are obviously live here today. So I'm going to pop up a little bit of a poll, as Roland had mentioned, and to ask you guys very simply, why are you here in the first place? So a poll should have just popped up here now. If you can just go to the bottom, and there are 5 different answers. So why are you here? I'd like validation because my remote reviews are amazing. I need a few little tricks to help me improve my reviews. I'm struggling with remote reviews. I haven't done many since lockdown started. Or what's a remote review? So if you could just pop in on the questions there. Cool. So a few people already. I need a few little tricks to help me improve. I haven't done many since lockdown started. Some of the votes coming in now. We've got mostly a little few. Wow. Okay. So definitely people who know what remote reviews are. No one yet that I can see that thinks that they're amazing. Oh, one person thinks that they're amazing. Look at that. It's like a horse race. Come around the corner and need a little few tricks coming in first. And I haven't done many coming in second. All right. Okay. So this is amazing. So one person who says, what's a remote review? So to that person, a remote review is doing your annual review or your new client onboarding via a remote way. In this instance, via video, where you're not in the same room. So I hope I've answered that. Maybe you can pop it into the ask a question and we'll take it from there. Fantastic. Cool. Thanks very much for jumping in, guys. So as I said, my job is to hopefully break a few habits and to develop a few change avenues to get people into a new state. Bottom line is this. I've spoken to a lot of advisors myself in terms of the difficulty in how all of this works. And the big trick is that they're suffering with time. Time is a big issue. And you remember when you used to take your hand and push it through water, and it was really hard to get that through. So my job here is to try and get that through your hand to go a bit smoother through and get as fast. It's not the same as doing live reviews. It's definitely not. Okay, we can accept that. But at the end of the day, if we can make it just a little bit better for you, and you can make it a little bit better for your experience personally and for your client's experience, then we're gold, okay? Because we're all about making sure that time is spent as effectively as possible. I think that's what we all should be focusing on. So I want to move from people looking at remote reviews like this, like looking at a laptop with someone on the other side of it, to what I refer to as through the screen, okay? And maybe you need to be a little bit cooked in the head to really think about someone who's just there instead of through the laptop. But if we can get this mentality, because it's going to start with you, of thinking through the screen, that's when we're all going to win. Before we get started, I had a few people ask me leading up to this if there were any, if this session was eligible for CPD points. I can tell you with absolute conviction there are CPD points in this event. There are 3 points in particular. The first point C is connect. The second point P is prepare. And the third point D is deliver. This is the process that I'm going to take you guys through today. You're not getting any real points. No one's giving you anything for this. I'm sorry, but I'm giving you 3 points anyway. So if you want to high five me and say thanks, you can just say thanks in the chat there. You're welcome in advance. So I'm going to start with the C, connect. And this is a 4-stage approach in terms of what we want to do. And I want to start here with Wi-Fi. Sounds bizarre that I'm now talking to you about how to run remote reviews and I'm trying to teach you a silly thing like Wi-Fi. But there are a lot of people that, in my experience, including myself over the last few months, have been struggling with this. And there's a very, very simple understanding of this in terms of Wi-Fi. There's your download speeds and your upload speeds. Everyone's got different kinds of speeds depending on where they are. And you can test your speed if you haven't done it already. And I'm going to tell you later why you need to understand why your speed needs to be as good as what it should be. And an easy place to test your speed is a place called speedtest.net. You can do it on your phone or your laptop. You just go to speedtest.net and you click go. Now, I have a 20 up and 20 down package with Telkom in my home. It means 20 megabits upload and 20 download, right? So I use speedtest.net to test exactly if Telkom are actually giving me what I need. And the results I did yesterday at about 3:30. The download speed was just under 13, and upload, I mean, Telkom's giving me 1.4 free. I mean, that's unheard of, Telkom giving you free stuff. But just to get an understanding of what your upload and your download speeds are, because there's a difference in those, and I'm going to explain to you a little later why. So speed is the first thing. The second thing is coverage. Now, if you lived in a, I suppose, normal 3-bedroom sized home, generally, for the most part, what I found, a lot of people put either the Wi-Fi in the kitchen or the lounge room, right? So let's say this Wi-Fi was in the lounge room, and it's got a range that it's going to get to. In this instance, if the range isn't too far, it's not going to get to the far bedroom, and the person in the far bedroom is going to struggle. Maybe you made your office that bedroom and struggling with it. And then you thought, let me fix that. I'll just get an extender. Now my desk can get some coverage. Fantastic. However, there's also a difference in where your coverage is going versus where you actually are inside your house and how your house is structured. I'm just going to play a little video of how to test your Wi-Fi speed in different areas of the house. And you'll see just by me moving in this video from one room to the next, the difference in I just wanted to show you a quick way to test how your Wi-Fi speed is affected when you move around areas of your house. So not just about what's coming into your router that's pushing out into your home, it's also about where you've positioned yourself. So a quick way to test that on a Windows PC is to open your control panel, is to click on Network and Internet. You then click on Network and Sharing Center. Up here we'll see what your Wi-Fi is connected to. My Wi-Fi is called Dozzle. So when you click on that, a little button pops up here. And this little window says my speed is 144.4 megabits per second. Now that's the maximum that my router or computer, whatever it is, can get to. I've tested it. I'm right next to my Wi-Fi extender at the moment, so that is the maximum. But just have a look at what happens if I cross from my office across the passage. Already it's starting to drop and immediately into another room. Worse off, if I close the door, you'll see that it goes down to 72 megabits per second. That's like half of what it was in the
in my office. And this in this room also, for some reason, also fluctuates. 130 down to 86, and it'll bounce as I move around. Funny enough, I used to work from this room, and I was having problems with the Wi-Fi. And when I found this out, I then made quick adjustments to that. Well, not quick really, but I had to move my office to the other room. You see, as I start moving out here, it pops back up to 144 megabits per second. Just a easy way to test where your Wi-Fi is strongest in your home, and that's where I would suggest you position yourself for the best work from home experience.
All right, so I'm sorry if some of you didn't see that video. I'll put a link into the comments after this to watch that video. Sorry, that's just basically how to find where your Wi-Fi is correct. Vim, yes, absolutely. Maybe my 20 megabits per second is not working today. It's a Thursday. It's Telcom. I apologize. The last thing in terms of connectivity is devices. Now, this is obviously a very extreme case in terms of security cameras and lights attached to your internet and all the rest of it. But the more devices that you have connected to your Wi-Fi, the slower your speed is going to be. Actually, Ari from Wealthbit actually mentioned this to me yesterday, which is why I included it. Around the more devices you have on a network, the slower all of the devices are going to be, so they can share the load, right? So if you have something that you need to get done that's quite important, and the kids are running around and on their iPads and watching Netflix and doing all of that, it's probably a good idea to tell them to stop so that you can spend the good time as possible in your review. Okay, the other thing is platforms. Now, everyone understands, the different platforms that we use. I can tell you I've used almost all of these in the last few months, from Zoom to Microsoft Teams to Skype and WhatsApp and Google Meets and all the rest of it. Every business has got their own general preferred one, and for the most part, when you're working with other organizations, they have their, thanks Alex, video seems to have improved, thank you. They've got their other tools that they use, right? What I wanted to share with you and why I was talking to you earlier about Wi-Fi speed is because platform speed also makes a very big difference. A group online did a bit of a test in terms of speed. As you can see over here, you've got your minimum upload speed and maximum upload speed. I can make this bigger. You guys can see this afterwards. The basic premise is Google Meets, for example. We thought Google was doing really well in terms of their speed of an operation. The recommended upload and download speed is 3.2 megs. But when you're looking at something like Zoom, it is 1.8 megs. But then when you do, that's a one-on-one. And then when you do Zoom group meetings, it goes into 3 megs and 2.5 megs. So then it does something similar with Google Meets as well. Microsoft Teams seems to be doing a little better. When they started, I remember some people sharing results that Microsoft Teams was horrific from a bandwidth perspective, but they seem to have done better. So again, though, it's about knowing what you have and knowing what the platforms are actually doing, which is going to give you, at the end of the day, comfort from a platform choice perspective. I also just want to stop you and make a bit of a note. If you're comfortable using Zoom and Google Meets, but you have no idea how to use Teams and all the other platforms, just tell your client or your supplier, partner, whoever it is that is using it, to say, hey, because I'm running this event, please can we rather, if they booked a meeting, please can we rather run it on Zoom or Meet or whatever you are comfortable with? Because at the end of the day, I've been in numerous meetings where people have been, if they're just new to Google Meet or something, you say, oh, sorry, I just need to, where do I, how do I present? And then, but I want to show you a video, and then everyone, it's broken, right? It is absolutely not cool. The last thing from a platform perspective is obviously something like Wealthbit. As some of you may know, I've been working with Wealthbit for the last few months, and the platform is incredible. And what I've found is that from a remote perspective, it helps a lot. And I'm not going to take you through the detail. Roland is going to take you through the detail a little later in terms of how you would do an online review and a remote review with a client. But for the most part, what I've found is that being able to, as from a client perspective, on the other side, watch as the program goes through, and be a part of that journey has been highly, highly, highly effective from, as I say, a client and from watching it being delivered from a financial advisor perspective. Okay, next up. So we've done see, we've done connect. Next is prepare. I'd like to know from you guys, before I share the results, how do you think clients feel about annual reviews? If you can just pop them into the chat there, I'd love to get a bit of a sense of, if you had to think about what clients feel about online or annual reviews online, or just general, what do you think they would say? I'm going to give you my research, and I'm just keen to see what's coming up now. The chats might be coming in a little late on my side. Okay, my chat's happening. I don't know if you guys have commented. Oh, some of them are loving it as it saves time. They really value the meeting as it keeps the plan on track. Okay, would be a new experience. Cool, mine prefer face-to-face. They value it. A lot value the reviews. Excellent. Others are missing the face-to-face time, for sure, for sure. So I'm going to share you, I asked the question online across the channels, what word or words come to mind when thinking of having to meet your financial advisor for your annual review? I didn't necessarily say online, I was purely just saying annual review, right? I wanted to get a sense of where they're at emotionally when they have to meet their financial advisor. So I took most of the answers from Facebook. The first one was Dave Levinson. He said, advisor, what's he going to do? Dave Levinson is a comedian, so he'll obviously, have a bit of a joke about it. So don't be too concerned there. Lyndall said direction, planning, and financial strategy. So that's amazing. So we've got one no and one yes, in terms of a positive and negative. Although Dave did get 2 likes as opposed to Lyndall's 1 like. So there's a bit of a waiting on there. However, it didn't get any better from there. The comments here are proctology exam, root canal treatment. Sean said ointment, which probably goes back to proctology exam. And there's more that says, please explain what all of my policies are for again. Please stop trying to sell me an RA. Who are you? Will he return my call? And then, I'm going to be in groot kak. Are the answers to the question, what comes to mind when thinking of having to meet your financial advisor, okay? It seems to be that people aren't really excited about the prospect of meeting on an annual basis, okay? Maybe these are just the people I hang out with, but it was very interesting. Although on the flip side, from an advisor perspective, Roland actually shared this with me yesterday from XY Advisor, and the question was, after 6 months of COVID and the move to digital meetings, has this been a good thing or a bad thing for your advice process moving forward? Most of the answers said it's been good and I will keep doing digital meetings after COVID. And about half of those said it's been good. However, I will go back to in-person meetings as preference, which is very interesting, right? Because the conversations I've been having have also been very, very 50-50. To paraphrase Sandy's comment there, thanks, Sandy. Some people have been loving it and not having to go to the office, having to work in their pajamas, which is fantastic. And the others really do miss the face-to-face time. So the reason I'm telling you all of this is attached to this beautiful quote by Woodrow Wilson, which says this: if I have to speak 10 minutes, I need a week for preparation. If 15 minutes, 3 days. If half an hour, 2 days. If an hour, I'm ready now. Now, Woodrow Wilson was president of the United States in the early 1900s, and he instituted this whole concept of short speeches, right? And they asked him why and the preparation that takes into it. And the bottom line is that when you're trying to get things to a very, very concise point, especially when you have a finite amount of time online, generally you're going to book 60 minutes for these sessions, 90 minutes. You can't just hang around and slowly walk out the door, while you're sipping your coffee that they made for you when you meet with them at their office or their home. People have booked meetings, and so they have to get on the hour, on the half hour, and move. So a big part of all of this is around the preparation and making sure that you've chosen the right tools, the right timing, and the right institution for you to be able to deliver that. The next thing, of course, as part of that is the research. I know a lot of people who don't do this, so if you do, I'm really, really proud that you do. Research on people before you meet with them is paramount. Not just about the people that you're meeting for the first time, but also the people that you are meeting again that you haven't maybe seen for a while. LinkedIn is a beautiful place to do some research because it shows a lot what people are thinking. So I just did a quick research on Roland. I went to his profile. I then clicked on his activity. And then I saw that he shared a post from Louis van der Merwe about a virtual get-together with Kate Holmes. She's a CFP from the States. He said, I'm looking forward to this discussion. So what I would do if I was Roland's financial advisor, have a little look at this. And in the conversation, as you start prepping the conversation to go, hey, man, I saw that you shared that event with Kate Holmes. How was it? Any little tidbits? Again, this is very financial advice specific, but if they were going to an event or they went away to the Kruger for the weekend, you saw that on Facebook, the preparation to build and to own that conversation is really, really important. Because from a supply perspective, generally you're going to be walking into the room, have those conversations while you're getting your bag out and the files and the papers and all the, and I know this because the last sort of 20 years as being a client of a financial advisor, this is the process. They walk in the door, whether it was a home or the office, and then conversation happens, and slowly but surely these piles and piles of paper start coming up. But we don't have that anymore from a remote review perspective. What we do have are these things: PowerPoint and Adobe Acrobat. Now, PowerPoint you'll obviously be using if you're going to present something specific. I'm not too sure how often people use the PowerPoint to present to their clients, whether it was in real life or over video. But Adobe Acrobat is now obviously the replacement for all of your physical files, right? And I want to give you an example of how Acrobat can be, from a preparation perspective. Remember the CPD, the P is about preparation. From a preparation perspective is so, so valuable. So here's the thing. I've got 6 documents open, and it's a guide to the West Coast National Park. I have to be honest, I looked on my computer and I couldn't find any PDFs on my computer that didn't hold any personal information or banking information. So here is a guide to the West Coast National Park. However, there are different guides to the West Coast National Park, which you'll see in the top section over there. So there's 6 different types. And what happens is when you open up a lot of files in Adobe Acrobat, they truncate the file name. So I don't know which is which is this bird hide, which is this place to stay, between those. So when I'm doing my review, for example, if I was reviewing with someone the West Coast National Park and everywhere where they could stay, I would struggle having to click between the right ones. So what I could do is obviously number them. But what happens is the screen obviously here is quite small. It's 1, 2, and then it's 6, 4, 3, and then 5. Acrobat is very, very user-friendly, and what you can do is once you've numbered them and you've put everything in place, you don't even have to number them, but you can move the tabs around within Acrobat to make sure that you prepare your meeting as effectively as possible. Everything is about preparation, making sure that you're not scrambling, looking for how to present, looking for the right file. Oh, let me click this quickly. Preparation, ladies and gents, sets you free. Okay, if you are prepared, if you are structured, if the meeting goes as smoothly as possible, you can get to what you need to get to, which is conversation and giving advice. That is the sole purpose of it. So all of the administration and all of the admin that needs to get done has to get done and prepared up front. Cannot stress that enough. Finally, the D in CPD is deliver. This is obviously the fun one. This is the one where you get to stand up and actually present to people. From a sound perspective, 3 things that you need to be mindful of. If you're in a room that is very echoey, move. Just move out of that room. It does not sound good. Echo is not cool. If you have to work in that room, there are a number of tips and tricks. You can put blankets over cupboard doors, and pull the curtains down, close them. You need to change the lighting in there, of course. But the bottom line is, if you don't sound good, you need to fix it. How you do that is you record yourself. Zoom has a recording functionality. Skype has a recording functionality. your computer has a recording functionality. So use that and then play it back to yourself, because what you hear is what the person on the other side hears. And if what you hear is not good, you can then move that. How about a USB lapel microphone? Yes, absolutely. And Crisp as well. Crisp is an amazing application that blends out. Thank you very much, Lynn. That takes out background noise that you then install onto your computer. Lynn, if you won't mind, if you can maybe just put a link to Crisp into the chat so people can check that out as well. Thank you very much. Microphones, yes, certain microphones will work. Oftentimes people will use the normal Apple microphones. These are quite good. Sometimes the microphone is quite soft, or you get the guys who look like fighter pilots, with the big things on the side in terms of headphones and microphones. Everything is going to suit you, right? It has to suit you, and you need to feel comfortable with it, and it needs to sound good on the other side. The other part is around the background. Now, I've been toying with this for a very long time, and in terms of what backgrounds work. So I'm going to show you here quickly in terms of my background. Why I have this stuff in the background is when I have meetings with people, just for them to have a sense of who I am. I don't have to show them, but when people normally have a squiz, because we all have squizzes, they can get a sense. So if I just move this here, you'll see behind me I've got some board games, which, so people think that I'm fun. I've got some toys, Lego and things, so people think that I'm creative. And I've got some business books here, so people think that I'm smart. And then here I've got a hat that says "Don't be cuck," so people think that I am quirky. And I mean, not really. This is my stuff, right? But your background is very, very important. Because what you also want to do is make sure that you have, does cuck work for you? No, not really. But thank you for the question, Sandy. So your background is your choice. The one thing that I will always stress is make sure that you're in control of your background. Don't be like this guy who was he's a Spanish anchor. He was doing the news, and his girlfriend, sneaky girlfriend at the time, walked past in only her top part of her underwear, and that obviously made the news. He had no idea that was happening. Don't be lacquer, don't be. Exactly, couldn't. And from a camera angle perspective, ladies and gents, this is very important, okay? This guy looks like he's having a whale of a time, and he is really enjoying himself. His background is beautiful. There's someone in the background there that might walk past, but, he looks like he's having a good time. But generally what he's going to look like, if you look at that camera angle from where his webcam is to where his face is, he's going to look like this. You have seen this time and time again. You may have even seen this on yourself. Please fix this, okay? Because two things. Firstly, no one wants to look up your nose. It's not your best angle. And secondly, you have so much roof in your screen that no one really cares. You've got this real estate that you can use, and you're wasting it, okay? Here's another extreme example. I love those when people have meetings and they're standing here like this. Me and this girl look pretty similar. She has way too much ceiling. I can tell you one thing, unless Lionel Richie is dancing on your ceiling, no one wants to see your ceiling, okay? So fix that. Another thing from your stage is obviously the light. Make sure that you don't have light coming from behind. Time and time again, I see people in their office and with the screen behind. We actually ran a session with a well-known rugby player a few months ago. And he was outside on the event, and he wanted to show the mountain. He lives in Cape Town. He wanted to show the mountain in the background. But what happened was, because it was so light out there and he was on his patio, he was just basically blacked out. And we had to tell him before we got him online to move so that we saw his house. He didn't think of the lighting. He said, "Oh, but the mountain is beautiful." So we had this beautiful view of a mountain, but he was completely silhouetted out like these two wonderful people. Also, how you're presenting is completely up to you. I like to stand generally when I work and when I present. You can see over here, we were at a black tie event. This was before I set my office up properly. This is an interim. You see my laptop is on a few books to raise the camera up a little bit. And so it's just about how your preference works. So this is my setup at the moment, as you can see here. And I'm going to take you very briefly in terms of how how this works. So this is exactly what it looks like right now. I took this photo yesterday, although I did eat that apple and nachi, if anyone was wondering. So what I've got here, I've got a clock in the background so I can have a look, so I don't always have to squeeze at the bottom of my screen. I have a second screen so that I can monitor things. So I can share this screen, which is what I'm doing right now, and I can see what's going on here. And then also have post-its where I can use in terms of if I'm brainstorming, writing a few notes, fiddling around here. So it's just things on hand. The other side, I have a mouse so that I can actually do things a lot more effectively and quicker, while your laptop trackpad is valuable and you can work it really well. A mouse is a lot faster just in general for me. Again, personal preference. I have a laptop riser, which I'll show you what I'm using now. And then obviously my notebook has got space in front where I can make notes. So now I'm looking at you here and everything is good. The riser, just out of interest, I'm using a laptop riser called Moft. And there are 5 different options. You've got the different degrees. You can then raise it up completely. So if you have a normal size table and you want to stand next to it, this bottom one, the Z-shaped one, can fit it on and it works beautifully. Alternatively, you can put it on your lap at a bit of an angle and you can work it accordingly. The one thing that I also will definitely have to stress with everybody is, remember when we were kids and the school photographer or your mother kept on saying, look into the camera, look into the camera, look into the camera, okay? Especially when you are presenting. I have got a little post-it note over there that says, look here. It's actually still on here, right there, look here, okay? And that's it. I've written underneath. So here's the sticky bit over here, and I've written underneath so I can stick it behind my screen so that I can see here. Because what happens is it's very easy for us to not look into the camera and look at people. Because generally, if I'm looking at your face and we're having a conversation, if you have to look at me right now, it looks like I'm looking at your chest, okay? Which over video is fine. In real life, that would be, cause for a harassment case. Bottom line is, you don't have to look at someone if you're presenting something. You can feel the difference if I'm looking at you now right into your eyes as opposed to if I'm looking at you down here. There's a very, very big mental shift for people. So the more often you can look into the camera and look into people's eyes, the better. There's a little bit of a cheat if you're not really happy to not look at them in the face. I took the screenshot earlier of the wonderful Linda Dunkley. And what I did was I took my Zoom screen and I shrunk it quite small to put it into the top. Okay, so now I'm looking just below the camera as opposed to a lot below the camera. So there's also that little trick that you can do in order to help you get as close to looking at them in the camera as possible. Alex, it is very, very tough to do. But at the end of the day, the more that you can get comfortable with it in terms of certain parts of the conversation where you feel like you have to look at them in the eyes. And again, as I mentioned earlier, maybe a little bit cooked, but you have to really focus here. Also, whether you want to stand, as I say, I stand, or whether you want to sit, always try and have your camera angle as close to your eye level as possible so that, again, you don't see the ceiling and you don't see all those other things. At the end of the day, you want something that's going to look quite professional. You can see this guy, beautiful background. He's got his cameras in there. He's got a nice photo behind, and his lighting is done really, really well. Because, ladies and gents, here's the deal. Time is money, right? Your job is to own the conversation. My experience, I would suggest, because we only have a certain amount of time, is start with talking about them with the research, talk about you, what's been happening with you, what's happening with the market, and then do the review, right? If you can maximize your time and make sure that you can streamline as best as possible through this process, everyone, not just you, your clients as well, because we saw those answers about reviews earlier, everyone will be winning. So I'm going to leave you with this. First, ask yourself the question, are you allocating enough time for preparation? It is key. More difficult now with lots of other things going on at home, but you have to make the time. Secondly, is your setup conducive to an easy run review? Do you have your PDF set up? Do you have your presentation set up? Is everything prepared so that when you start, preparation can set you free? And finally, are you spending your time in reviews wisely, right? Using that time effectively. Okay, ladies and gents, that's me. I'm going to ask one more question. I'm going to put that into the poll right here. So just generally understanding where you've been, what part of your CPD needs some improvement. I'd love to know. Do you need help in connecting the Wi-Fi and making sure that you're in the right space in your home? Do you need more help in preparation? Or do you need more time in delivery? Do you need all three? Or you need no help and you're amazing? Okay, a lot of people are saying CP and D, okay, connecting, preparation, delivery, fantastic. While you guys are answering that poll, I am going to hand back over to Roland. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if there's any questions, we can delve with them in the Q&A. Roland, back over to you, sir.
Don, thanks so much for that introduction. I really appreciate it. And my job today is to showcase that while being a really good presenter over video is important, having the right tools at your disposal will really boost your profile with your clients. I've been involved with Wealthbit since the very beginning, and I've seen this system change and grow into what it is today. Over the past 3.5 years, we've partnered with advisors such as Natasha Hart to really build Wealthbit into what you'll see later on. And truly, without you guys, we really wouldn't be where we are today. So thank you. Isn't this a brilliant picture? Sitting on top of a mountain, staring out in utter peace. This is what we want for people, the ability to have peace of mind, knowing that they're making the right choices to ensure that they're going to live their best life. We want people to have more money than they have life. And by doing so, we know that they'll be able to live their best life. Now, given that technical challenges do happen, and this is 2020, I'm pretty sure someone started playing Jumanji at the start of the year. I'm not going to be doing a live demo because I want to ensure that you have the best experience possible. But what I will be doing is I will be running you through a series of screenshots to ensure that the message comes across properly. I do this because I feel that if I don't get this across properly due to some unforeseen technical difficulty that's out of my control, I wouldn't have done this webinar justice. To set the scene, I want to give you some background on this client. I met Barry Allen at a braai, and at that point in time, he'd just gone through a life-changing event, one almost as drastic as being struck by lightning. This really made him rethink his life and his choices. One of the major things that he wanted to look at was his finances. When Barry was 23, he took out an RA with a friend of his that had just joined the industry, and not having a good background in numbers, Barry was really under the impression that he would have money raining down on him. To him, he was going to have Ferraris in the driveway, and he'll be jet setting year on year for the rest of his life. Until then, he really felt that he had a massive passion for travel, and that's one thing that's always stuck. So he started a unit trust as well to really fund this. I suggested that I show Barry a picture of where he stood right now so that this could guide him to achieving his best life. When Barry saw this picture, though, he was quite shocked. He really thought that he was okay and he was going in the right direction. But as scary as this was, he felt that it was beautiful because he really knew where he was with his position now and where he wanted to be and how he could potentially get there. I made some notes for Barry and I saved a scenario for him to work on. I felt that for him to really get to his best life and a position that he wanted to be in, he had to engage with his plan and send me back a review. I then drafted a record of advice on things that I wanted him to think about while working on his draft to get himself into a better position. So we can see that Barry sent us a review of that scenario that I saved for him. And let's get started and assume we're looking at that review with Barry. Off the bat, we can see that Barry's made some changes, which is awesome. But let's start with the tasks I left him just to ensure that we refresh our memories. Here, Barry says that he's completed both tasks and he really wants to get into it and improve this plan that much more. Looking at task 1 with him, we can see that Barry has completed his detailed budget and we want to start refining that retirement budget. First off, we show him that at retirement, you shouldn't have a bond. You most likely will have paid that off. The transportation cost also would have gone down here because you're due to travel less during retirement. Now, let's take a look at that medical aid and life cover. Medical aid is most likely going to increase at an older age, and life cover is most likely going to go down. You're more than likely not going to need life cover and income continuation, where you'll have some dread disease and lump sum disability. So we can cut that price down there as well. Looking at his debts, we're more than likely to pay off student loans and any other debts, such as a personal loan that he has. We may still have a vehicle financing in there. So we'll leave that there for now. Now that we've updated the budget, we can see that we've improved the shortfall. Barry is truly happy because he didn't realize how much he would actually be able to cut out of this retirement budget. Then we look at his assets, and Barry mentions that the inheritance he mentioned in the first meeting has now paid through, 350,000 Rand. And what he decided to do was allocate some of that money to a money market fund for his emergency funding, and the remaining of that money to a share portfolio. His friend told him that he had a share portfolio, so he thought, what would it hurt to invest a bunch of money in some shares? Probably going to be good, right? Because saving money is good. He also tells me that he had that increase in pay to a point of 5,000 Rand a month. But I see he hasn't increased contributions. And when asking him why not, he said, he really likes the free cash flow. He really didn't want to mess with his mojo, his ability to go out for dinners and have fun with friends and so on by throwing all his cash into his investments. So I asked him, well, let's take a look at that. What if we structure this portfolio somewhat better, we increase your contributions, and we still give you your free cash flow that you're looking for? So we moved a majority of that money from that share portfolio into an overseas structure to diversify the portfolio, and we put a contribution of about $100 in. We then also increased the retirement annuity and unit trust contributions by 1,000 Rand a month each. By doing this, we ensure that he increases contributions, he diversifies his portfolio, and he still has his free cash flow, so his mojo is not hampered. All of a sudden, the plan looks a lot better. We only have a 3,000 Rand shortfall, but there's still a few levers to pull on. And Barry says, pull them. I see that the annual savings is still at 6%. So I say to him, let's increase your annual increase in savings to 10%. And given the increase you just received now, this should be achievable year on year. Awesome, almost there. Let's push that retirement out by a few years. Bam, we're in the green. Now you can start living your best life. Barry loves this. So let's get that annual travel expense into your plan. Barry tells me that he wants to travel every year from now till the day he dies, let's say 90 for this purposes, and it's going to cost 50,000 Rand a year. Awesome. So Barry here can still retire safely and travel every single year and has capital to do a whole bunch more as well. Barry loves this and says, let's implement. So we go ahead and we implement. Now his scenario becomes his projected capital. And effectively, now he can start to live his best life with a peace of mind, knowing that he's okay. Lastly, I complete an ROA, which will remain on the plan for Barry until we change this plan. My hope from today is that by showing you, like Batman, wearing that bat, or Bruce Wayne wearing the bat suit, having the best possible tools at your disposal will really help enhance your impact that you have during these remote reviews. Thank you all for listening, and we're open for questions.
Thanks, Roland. Okay, so let's go into the questions. I'll start with the easy one first. Is that an Afrikaans hat behind you? Kun, yes, it is. So that is answered. Thank you. And then Alex, any experience with whereby.com? Yes, we have. I actually haven't done any research on whereby in terms of usage, but it is, again, it's preference in terms of what people want to use and not to use. There are so many services. Zoho itself as an application also has a Zoho meetings platform that they try and run to keep it within the stable as well. And again, it's all different kinds of platforms are preference. Trying to see if there are any other questions. Roland, I don't know if you've got any on your side, but that's really from a platform perspective. Just the results from the what part of your CPD needs some improvement. Half the votes of everybody said the connect, prepare, and deliver. So it looks like we've all got a bit of work to do. Ladies and gents, I want to thank you. I want to thank Wealthbit for sponsoring and hosting this event. Roland, thank you for the showcase of how to run a very high level, how to run a annual review, which also helps, right? Because you're going to do fast and have good conversation between that. So if there's nothing else, excellent tool, Wealthbit. Yes, it is, Lynn. Yes, it is. Ladies and gents, thank you very much for being here. If you've got any other questions, please bomb a message through to sales@wealthbit.co or go to wealthbit.co and fiddle around and send a demo request, and I'm sure the guys will get in touch as soon as possible. Anything else? Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your Thursday.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks so much.